The great, ever-looming abyss, riddled with infinite mystery, our boundless cage, from which escape is utterly unfathomable, and has endowed us with innumerable oniric assertions that could easily be described as desperate lunacy. Lunacy. Lunacy.
Yo, dudes, dudettes, and everything in between and beyond. This is Teal Sky, name pending, and I recently started recording some fun challenges in these games. You're currently bearing witness to my virgin voyage through Generation 1, however, and hopefully it'll be a fun expedition. Now, in case you don't know, recently, at least as of June 13th, 2026, one of the OG celebrity players of these games, JRose11, made somewhat of a call to arms, beckoning those with the wherewithal and the gumption to perform a run of our own featuring Clefable in Pokemon Red or Blue. Since I recently started making videos and posting, I thought this would be a fun exercise and a good experience. Let's real quick take a look at the game. We're going up against our rival and his Squirtle, and I'm sure it's going to be overkill, but we'll start by putting the opponent to sleep here. Then, we'll just volley it with slaps until it faints. It does wake up and hit us with a tackle, but it barely inflicts any damage, and we just ruthlessly beat this adorable baby turtle down into the dirt until it's black and blue. The only modification to this game that I've made is changing my starter to Clefable. Otherwise, everything else is normal. No moveset changes, no stat alterations, nothing like that. And as we play through, I'm going to do something very, very dumb. I'm not going to use any TMs or HMs until we reach the league. And to increase the challenge of this game a bit further, I'm going on minimum battles. This means that in addition to the standard rules of these kinds of runs, such as no items being used in battle, and only using our starter in battle, we only gain experience from the mandatory trainer battles. So, see all these trainers here in Viridian Forest? We're going to skip right past them until we meet this guy, Bug Catcher Sammy. Sammy only has one Pokemon, a level 9 Weedle, and since it's a Weedle, it only knows Poison Sting and String Shot. Seeing as it's almost double our level, we're going to start by putting this foe to sleep too, and then slapping the crap out of it. We're a bit unlucky with the slaps, only getting 2 or 3 hits each time, but we are lucky with the sleep duration, and sadly, Sammy's Weedle never wakes up. The reason I know his name is Sammy, by the way, is because I've battled him in Fire Red. I'll talk about that in just a minute. First, let's jump right into Brock. Brock's going to be a bit of a challenge because of just how underleveled we are. But, since we're running this in minimum battles, there's no one else to battle before him, meaning we're stuck at level 6 until we defeat him. We start with a Sing and... oh, right. He has like 5 full heals per Pokemon. Okay, yeah, we're not going to do that. Metronome it is. Funny enough, we burn it, meaning that Brock uses his turn to heal the status again. Double Slap would only deal 1 damage each hit, so the best odds we have are relying on good luck with Metronome. But Metronome can execute any move, right? Are there any moves it can't perform? I don't think so. Feel free to let me know if I'm wrong about that. Anyway, we get some awful luck with it. Even when we get a super effective double kick, it barely affects Geodude. Dang! And we're halfway through our Metronomes and, funny enough, we get a double slap. And with our last power point, we get Hydro Pump. Okay. Then Onix comes out and defeats us. We give it a few more tries and generally get fairly unlucky. We really just want either damage-dealing water or grass-type moves. Well, I'll tell you this now. We're not always going to resort to minimize, but we will from time to time, and this is one case where we're going to do it. Then we get an Aurora Beam, followed by a submission. I'll take it for now, and let's switch to Double Slap to finish Geodude off and conserve some Metronome power points for Onyx. Onyx finally comes out and misses a Screech. Scary. But then we roll a Waterfall of all things, and that absolutely decimates the long, rock, hard, stony snake monster. Whew! Okay. These trainers drove me a bit crazy. The first one is a bug catcher, and he was alright. But the second guy, I've got a freaking vendetta against this butt munch and his stupid snake. Maybe I got cocky, running with this fairy powerhouse and not saving prior to fighting him. But he opens with Rattata, who gets really dang lucky, but ultimately falls to our might. And then he sends out this wriggly little bastard. Our Clefable actually rolled a Rage to defeat Rattata. So, when Ekans uses Wrap, it begins increasing our damage. But then, it holds us just barely too long, and we fall. Okay. This time I'm not messing around. Instead of Metronome, we're slapping these pests into oblivion. Rattata falls pretty quickly, and we enter Ekans. Again, the snake uses Wrap, and it hits us again, and again, and again. We break free and almost knock it out. Then Wrap again, and again. But we break free just before it knocks us out. We close in, raising that hand to slap. And then we miss. And of course, again, I didn't save. Okay. We absolutely devastate this bug catcher for a third time and jump this kid. Well, I guess he jumps us technically, but whatever. We battle. And this time, we're really not messing around. We're going with Sing. We easily take down the Rattata, and Ekans falls asleep too. And we deplete our last Double Slap. Oh, shoot. We're probably okay. Let's see. And of all possible moves, we get another Rage. Alright. Well, that's enough to knock it out. Sheesh. The next trainer's pretty easy, though for minimum battles, I think I was actually supposed to battle the last. So, that was probably my goof. Oops. Does that mean I failed the challenge? Well, too late. We'll just keep pressing forward. And against this guy, we don't really have any trouble. We mess around with Metronome, and against his last Pokemon, his Metapod, we get Transform of all things. Well, I suppose we can't really lose, but yeesh, this takes a while. Surprisingly, there aren't any mandatory battles throughout the entirety of Mount Moon until the very end. Then we just need to battle the Rocket Grunt and the scientist who happily shares one of the fossils with you. The Grunt is basically no effort, but the scientist actually gives us a really good fight. We take down his Grimer with a few Metronomes, then, since its defense is a bit lower, slap his Voltorb until it falls. But then we go to put his coughing to sleep, and we miss, and miss, and miss, and miss, and freaking miss again. What the heck? Alright, finally, on attempt number 6, we managed to lull it to sleep. Since our Clefable is so low health at this point, we're going to spam minimize until we're so tiny that we're basically invisible, and then it turns out that we can just double slap and quickly knock the coughing out. My gosh. Well, our attack was a bit boosted. We'll talk about that later. First, we need to make a quick decision. Do we jump the ledge and commit to minimum battles, or do we capitalize on the trainers we passed for some quicker, easier experience? I'm feeling cheeky and tough. I'm going to go for it. Let's go kick the tower out of our rival real quick. And we're going to start with some super cheese. We'll put this bird to sleep and then maximize our minimize. And wow, we get knocked down to some really dang low health, but we're pretty much untouchable now, so I think we can win. Oh, unless we knock ourselves out. Okay, back to Super Cheese. So, like I mentioned, our attack was a bit boosted when we were fighting that scientist coughing earlier. Oh, we knocked out Pidgeotto, by the way, and Abra, and Rattata. I'm sure most of you are well aware of this, but for those who aren't, Minimize isn't only a broken move because it makes us virtually impossible to hit, but also because it activates the badge boost glitch. Oh, we also knocked out Squirtle. Let's go face the Nugget Bridge Brigade while I explain. To my knowledge, the badge boost glitch is an unintended mechanic that causes your stats to increase when your stats are affected by stat-altering moves. Ooh, stat. Anyway, which is that is a horrendous way of explaining it. And basically, based on which badges you have, when you're hit with a move that increases or decreases a stat, your other stats will also change. So, to explain what's happening here, I have the Boulder badge, which offers us a flat 12.5% boost to our attack stat. Now, when we use Minimize, we increase our evasion stat and incur an additional 12.5% increase to our attack stat every time we use it. You can imagine how broken that can be. But, to make matters even crazier, this occurs when we're hit by an opponent's Leer or other such move. And, even worse, if we have more badges, it affects more stats. If we have all 8 badges, all of our stats are increased. Unless being lowered by something like Growl. And obviously not our hit points. But yeah, so, our Minimize is broken. Also, it's possible that I got some of those details wrong, like numbers or certain triggers or anything like that, but I am pretty sure that was accurate. Anyway, there's plenty more to it, but the explanation's hijacked too much of this video already. Let's get back into it. We get so freaking close to clearing out the entire Nugget Bridge without returning to the Pokemon Center. And maybe we could have if I used potions to recover hit points. But we opted to just heal to defeat the generous Rocket member at the end of the bridge. We'd need to heal to take on the following trainers anyway. Pretty much any time we encounter a rock type such as Onix, Rhyhorn, or any of the Geodude line, we're going to want to use Metronome instead of Double Slap. Double Slap is just too weak to be effective on these guys. We want a special move and ideally something they're extremely weak to, like Bubble Beam. So, like I said, I've been playing Fire Red. I'm currently trying to see how many Pokemon can beat the game on minimum battles, and I've played through Brock with pretty much everyone at this point, but I've only uploaded about half of them. I plan on finishing editing and posting the first generation soon, though depending on when you watch this video, maybe they're all released already, or maybe I've stopped. Who knows? Feel free to go check though. Oh no, we're fighting this Oddish and we've run out of power points for our Metronome and Double Slap. Okay, here we go. Fortunately for you guys, I can speed up the footage, but this can be a bit tedious on my end. And I'm actually not certain that we're going to win here. I hope we do. It'll be quite annoying if we don't. And we do. Now, we rescue Bill from his shenanigans. Oop. Shoot, I accidentally told him I wouldn't help him. Oh no, I'm playing as a douchebag. We'll still help him out. Alright, this trainer means nothing to my gladiator. We fight Misty. Clefable misses a few sings before putting the Staryu to sleep. Then our slaps are enough to take it out. We put the Starmie to sleep and knock it out pretty quickly too. No sweat. Against the innocent bystander, we metronome a karate chop on his Machop, which I thought was kind of funny. It takes a minute, but Drowsy's fine. But yeah, anyway, just to briefly digress back to what I was saying earlier. The minimum battles on the The minimum battles in Fire Red has been pretty fun. If you're interested, go check it out, but be warned, a lot of the narration and editing is a bit rough because these are my first videos. I've only done it a few times. But yeah, go check them out. That would be awesome. And feel free to leave any ideally constructive criticism. That would also be super duper cool. Okay, now real quick, something some of you may have noticed is that I do use save states. But I only use this as an alternative means to actually saving the game, just because it's quite a bit faster. Never, however, do I use it to give me an advantage in any battles. That would eliminate the point of any challenge, really. So, please don't think I'm cheating with save states. Heck, if I did, then far fewer Pokemon would have been eliminated in my minimum battles run in Fire Red. Especially my favorites, which have pretty much all been dropped. Surprisingly, to me at least, we don't actually need to battle a single trainer on the SSN aside from our rival. Here, I actually think I resorted to super cheese tactics a bit too early. I should have tried without minimize. Well, it is what it is. We basically tear him and his party apart. Now, it's time to get someone to use Cut. We'll just grab an Oddish real quick and then fight Surge. Okay, now this is screwed up. Two things. First, I forgot to save, so I had to go catch another Oddish. Not a big deal. Second, I'm manipulating a save state to cheese the trash puzzle, something I have absolutely zero qualms about. And the two keys are supposed to be next to each other, right? Well, they're not. Not this time. Unless you consider they're on the opposite ends of the freaking room next to each other. My gosh. Am I totally wrong about them being adjacent? Let me know, I guess. But yeah, Super Cheese makes Surge pretty trivial. It's pretty broken. Super Cheese is very, very broken, in fact. And my fellow American, I thank you for your service in the war. May you rest in peace. East of Cerulean, we have a few more battles that go really quickly. Then, to use Flash in the creatively named Rock Tunnel, I catch a Voltorb, and then I immediately realize that I never acquired the HM. But, far too lazy to go back to pick it up and to catch the necessary number of Pokemon to use it, I said, screw it, I'm looking up a dang guide. Is that considered cheating? Well, anyway, we can skip most of the trainers in this tunnel, and while we flounder around in here, I want to real quick shout out the 3 channels that inspired me to shoot my shot at running some of these challenges. First, the OG JRose11. I don't know how many years I've been listening to him as he's played through the game, but it's been a lot. Man, at least 6 years. Yeesh. Wow. Next was Scott over at Scott's Thoughts. I think I listened to his entire Yellow series. And then there's Teo over at RBY Challenges and his other channels. It's because of his Minimum Battles series that I decided to try running it in Fire Red, a game that he has not done that in yet, and I'm presuming he won't. About halfway through the cave, I was ever so slightly irked that I would have to backtrack in the dark, dodging invisible trainers in order to return to the Pokemon Center, but then it hit me. I have the Dig TM. Clefable can't use it, and I'm encountering Geodude. I'll just catch one and teach that to use Dig and save a bunch of time. What I didn't realize was that the next trainer was actually the infamous self-destructing hiker, as I believe Scott over at Scott's Thoughts puts it. J-Rose has his own name for him, and forgive me, but I have totally spaced the J-Rose given moniker for this guy. I do like self-destructing hiker though. Sounds like he's the one exploding. Anyway, had I realized it was him, I probably would have just tried to cheese him with Minimize until he hypothetically kablammed all his Pokemon while missing mine. But turns out there's a trainer after him, so I needed to return to replenish power points anyway. We get through him, avoiding his kamikaze Pokemon, quickly defeat the next trainer, and then finish this section and head to the spooky Pokemon Tower. Against our rival, we jump into Super Cheese. Pidgeotto gets a few hits in, but we're just so bulky, we don't really give a crap. Growlithe is a naughty dog and gets slapped down. We then scramble some eggs and slap a psychic before we enter the Turtle of War. Oddly, we hit one double slap but missed two. We then metronome Fury attack and Fury swipes to defeat the War Turtle. That was some wild coincidence right there. And we can't complete the tower right now, but we can at least eliminate some of the channelers. We make our way through the maze, but get warded away at the top. So, we head to Celadon. Let's go hit some slots. By the way, I do not condone gambling. If you have a gambling problem, then seek help. And if you don't, but you want to gamble, and gamble responsibly, please. Okay, we enter the pachinko parlor and find this guy looking awfully distraught at the wall here. Let's see if he needs a friendly ear to vent to. Oh, shoot! Whoa! Well, this guy's no problem for our Moon Fairy Gladiator. Surprisingly, of all of the jabronis loafing around this joint, we really only need to battle 4 of them, including the poster boy. Also, as a hopefully fully functioning adult, these puzzles were really dang quick and easy. We battled this grunt and he craps himself with fear, pooping out the card key or whatever. Then, there are 2 guards here. It's kind of funny how you can just battle one and leave before battling the other. We don't, though. We just jump into the second, hoping to get lucky with metronome since we're out of double slaps. Ooh, Sandslash. That's actually my favorite Pokemon. Well, we get a surf and take it out. We heal up and challenge the big jabroni. His Onyx gets locked into a rage, and we chloroform it before knocking it out with random metronome moves. Next up is Rhyhorn. We fail a couple of sings and then metronome a Spore. Poetic. 2 metronomes left, and they're absolutely useless. And we miss a double slap. Not looking good, Clefable. The 2 fighters exchange blows for a while, but we ultimately put the smack down on the Rocky Rhino and knock it out. Finally, Kangaskhan. With our slaps, we get it down to really low HP. And now, we're down to our last power point. This is the moment of truth. Will we walk away laughing, drunk on victory, or will we shamefully canter away with our tail between our legs? And we win! Woohoo! Okay, HM2, catch a Spearow. Be a stranger giving a very young girl a suspicious yellow drink in exchange for a favor. Give this guard some water. Then, Erica. The only other trainer we have to battle in the gym is pretty easy. Against the fragrant Erica, we put her victory bell to sleep and then miss a pin missile. Oh, man! Well, we defeat it with a metronome earthquake and some slaps, but not before being poisoned. Usually, Tangela's no threat whatsoever, but rat poison tactics? Oh no. Thanks to Constrict, though, we destroy the green spaghetti Medusa and reach Erica's final Pokemon, Vileplume. And just look at that sprite. Dang! He's putting up a really good fight, too. But in the end, our Clefable remains unmatched. I was planning to then take down Team Rocket and Saffron, but totally spaced that I still needed to complete the tower. So I rushed over to Spooky Town to quell the Mad Mama Ghost and beat the snot out of the 3 Rocket members there and then save Fuji. While battling the Ghost Marowak, however, we metronome a self-destruct. Yikes. Also, I thought this was a ghost. Our normal type attacks hit it. What's going on here? On the following attempt, we defeat her pretty easily. Next, we battle the 3 Rockets. We get through the first 2 with very little difficulty. Only really damaging ourselves due to the second guy's Golbat. But against the third, we find the power points of our damage dealing moves are almost entirely depleted. We eliminate the first 2 with our double slaps, but the third is Raticate, and we're drained of double slaps. We have 3 metronomes left. And first get a Psywave and come close. We get hit and brought down to a measly 5 HP remaining. Down to just 1 Zubat. And we have just 1 metronome. What do we get? Bind! And with that, we're able to eliminate the Rocket Punks. Next, we get the bike and take on this Snorlax, from which we just leave. We don't need to battle anyone or anything on Cycling Road, nor in the Safari Zone, So here in Fuchsia, it's really just Koga and two of his cronies, a pair of jugglers. These guys switch out their Pokemon like a pair of madmen, or jugglers, but that makes them pretty easy. Alright, let's face the stinky ninja. We get pretty unlucky in our first attempt, but in our second, with Super Cheese strats, we have very little issue getting past him. Even after being poisoned, Koga throws a Hail Mary and misses, giving us the win. Now, to take down Team Rocket once again. There are actually only 4 required battles here. We can skip by everyone but this guy blocking the keys, our rival, and a grunt guarding Giovanni. And the Grand Douche himself. Of course, the first grunt falls fast, and onto Rival Fival. We immediately initiate Operation Super Cheese. We need to manage our power points carefully here. Against the Pidgeot, we slap it. Metronome a quick attack, and neutralize the threat with another double slap. 2 double slaps, neuter the dog. We've been getting a bit unlucky with double slap, only hitting a couple of times throughout this match. Here too. And then reflect from execute. Yeah, we use up a few metronomes, but don't get a lot of luck. And again, a lame double slap. A couple more metronomes, and 1 more slap, and finally, the eggs crack. That was rough. We give Alakazam our last double slap, and once again get a 2-hit. What the heck is going on? Piece of crap attack. After a couple more metronomes, we get a Thrash, shaving the stash. Bloody crap. Clefable thrashes about... Okay, hang on. Clefable thrashes about for 2 more turns before succumbing to confusion. And the Blastoise is so freaking close to fainting. Well, we haven't lost this yet. Here we go. We strategically sparse out our Stings and Minimizes, and we finally reach Struggle. With that, we're able to finally take down our rival. Now, we've got a choice. Go back and heal, or take on the final guard with no PP. No PP. Alright, let's do that. There's really no strategy here. We have to replenish Clefable's hit points in order to win this, and we do lose a few times. Seems like if we get hit by any attacks, we're going to lose, but ultimately we struggle hard enough to destroy everything. Now first, just for fun, I want to see if we can defeat Giovanni using my mules and Voltorb. Obviously, no matter what happens, I'll reset so that Clefable battles him alone. But let's see how this goes real quick. And we actually get pretty close. This team could probably do it after a few tries, especially thanks to Vaporeon. But here, they just barely fall short. Okay, let's take him on for real now. Time to cheese the big cheese. And once we set up, we do get poisoned, but otherwise, he's not really any threat whatsoever. And, by absolute coincidence, we get a 4-hit Thrash. Wow, that's just what we needed, too. And thanks to that, we end up getting through Giovanni on our first try. Whew, I hope we won't be seeing that guy again. Anyway, let's hit Sabrina's gym where we can cut straight to the lovely lady herself. I actually got really lucky when choosing the order of teleporters to step on. I had no idea how to reach her, but I managed to do so considerably quickly. Anyway, let's see how we fare. Okay, against Kadabra, that was some pretty atrocious luck. She flubs it with Mr. Mime though. But then we're so weak that her Venomoth easily finishes us off. We get pretty bad luck once again with Kadabra, and again on our third. Okay, let's apply the cheese. Though, in retrospect, I kind of regret this. I think we probably could have defeated her without Minimize, but it would have been pretty difficult. Her Alakazam does force us to use Metronome, however, surviving our double slaps and using Recover. But we do get pretty lucky this time around and manage to finish off Sabrina's ace Pokemon. After we say goodbye to this smoking hot Babarino, we'll make straight for Cinnabar. it occurred to me that it's way faster to skip Seafoam Island and just go south from Pallet Town. I'm so glad I figured this out. Probably saved me a ton of time. We don't have to battle anyone or anything in the abandoned mansion, but man, I really should have used some repels. This place is freaking obnoxious. We very slowly make our way through and procure the secret key and head to the gym. Ah, yes. The infamous quiz question. Does Caterpie evolve into Butterfree? What do you guys think the right answer is? Either way, TM28 is definitely Tombstoner. We skirt by all the trainers and then jump this flamin' old dude. Ironically, Blaine, supposedly one of the most intelligent characters in all of Pokemon, has some of the absolute worst AI in the game. He constantly finds a way to flub the battle, making moves like trying to use super potions on Pokemon who are at full health, and using attacks like Leer when our Pokemon are already one hit away from fainting. I was definitely overly cautious in this battle, but we also didn't take any damage. Wow. Alright, only 4 battles left before the league. This is exciting. 2 of them are mooks in the Viridian Gym. Let's wipe them out real quick and take on the mysterious gym leader of Viridian. I wonder who it could be. Then, while battling the second trainer of the gym, we metronome. Explosion. Yikes. Now I need to battle the first guy again. We get through him pretty quickly though. And then, just to be safe, we'll cheese this guy. The Karate King. We'll use metronome against the Machoke, and after slapping around his Machop, we'll switch over to metronome for Machoke number 2, finishing it off with a strength attack. Lackey's down. Let's see who this guy is. Oh look, it's this old douchebag again. Let's beat him up. Here, I made a bit of a silly move. I opted not to go to the Pokemon Center, and my reasoning was that we're going to inevitably need to use Struggle, and having more power points in Sing and Metronome could be a hindrance. But as you can see here in this utterly sped up footage, it just wasn't really working out. We are reaching Struggle, but even though we get close, we don't have the hit points to finish off the Rhydon. So we heal up and come back to wreck this guy. This round we get fairly lucky, hitting Rhyhorn with an Aurora Beam to knock it out after a few metronomes. Then, unfortunately, we get hit by a Sand Attack. Yuck. Dugtrio and Clefable end up missing a bunch of attacks against each other. It's a bit awkward, but our funny fairy ends up winning our game of Whack-A-Mole. But not before getting growled at, which is also unfortunate. Now that we've leveled up though, we'll go ahead and set up, getting nice and tiny. Then we hit Nidoqueen with Waterfall and move on to Nidoking. We missed 3 double slaps in a row, but then defeat it with 2 more uses of the attack. Rhydon comes out and we still have 6 uses of Metronome. This is it. Moment of truth. We use Sing and then Metronome. Poison Gas. But Rhydon's asleep. Conversion. Alright. Then back to sleep. Cut. Does practically nothing. Sword Dance can be good though. Hydro Pump. Oh, we missed. Bloody crap. Down to 1 PP and we get Super Fang. Okay, not horrendous. Now we can exhaust our Sing and minimize and struggle down the Rhydon. Wow. All 8 shiny colorful badges. And with our base move set. By the way, this was an awful and stupid way to play this game. Just use TMs. That's my advice. If you want 0 challenge, use Sing and minimize. But Clefable is so freaking strong. I didn't think this game would be this easy. Surely, our rival's also going to be no sweat. Well, we got pretty dang good luck on our first attempt. Plenty of luck with both Double Slap and Metronome. Heck, we got a 5-hit Double Slap against the Pidgeot, Metronome and Ice Beam on the first turn against Rhyhorn, and get a 4-hit Double Slap against Growlithe. Our luck begins to wane against Exegute, but the eggs enjoy a long sleep and don't actually do anything against us. And while we do miss our first double slap against the Alakazam, the subsequent volley is a hefty 5-hit. After a couple of metronomes, we finish it off with a strength. 5 down, 1 to go. And our metronomes basically go nowhere. Unfortunately, ours does nothing, and we're forced to reset. If we'd had more hit points, maybe we could win with struggle, but we just didn't have the health needed. And yeah, it takes us several more tries of fainting to get to this run. Against Pidgeot, we focus on getting it to sleep, and then slippity-slapping it. Rhyhorn gets put to sleep too, and it only takes a couple of metronomes to get a waterfall. As usual, we pat the dog a bit too hard and knock it out pretty quickly. Now, we set up. This way, now that we've leveled up against the final 3 Pokemon, we'll have our stats increased. So, we only need to use Double Slap twice on the eggs. Alakazam emerges and does absolutely nothing, falling prey to our fairy's deadly hands. And dang! We still have 8 freaking metronomes left. We put Blastoise to sleep and get a metronome takedown. While it snoozes, we slap it a couple times, and then metronome a Crabhammer to finish it off, showing our punk rival who's boss. Oof. Now we go north. This actually felt kind of cool, passing all these guards, and we actually don't need to battle anyone in this cave. It's actually kind of a negative, since that means no more levels. Now, a couple of quick notes before we attempt the league. You can watch me stumble and bumble around this cave while I prattle for a moment. This is far from an optimized run. Had I been smarter about it, I would have utilized different moves. Probably invested in some roids, well, rather vitamins, and changed up a few other things. But my main goal here was to have some fun and to get some experience, and I feel I've achieved that. This was also my very first attempt at a minimum battles run throughout an entire game, and my first time playing through all of Generation 1 game in ages. I didn't expect Super Cheese strats to be quite this broken though. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this far. If you have, I still have very little idea of what I'm doing and how to do whatever this is, so I appreciate you bearing with me. Hopefully I'll get better and be able to make some more entertaining content. And yeah, check out my other stuff if you enjoyed this at all. Thank you. Now, let's get back to the game. So, here's the pseudo attempt number 1. I haven't changed anything, and I don't expect to get very far. We'll set up against Dugong, but I think even still, we're going to get our butts kicked. We want to try to keep Dugong asleep so it doesn't use rest and heal up. Takes a bit, but we do get through. Cloyster's defense is so high, I don't think we want to try using Double Slap. So I throw a bunch of metronomes at it, bring it to low health, then miss some double slaps, and finally knock it out. On to Slowbro. We run out of effective power points, and it would be impossible to win with struggle strats since we lack enough hit points. Okay guys, it's time. Time at last. Say goodbye to Double Slap, and good riddance. We're going to teach Clefable Skull Bash. And now, we can hit way harder. Skull Bash has a base power of 100, or 150 if you account for our same type attack bonus. But, it takes a turn to set up, much like Solar Beam. But before we take on... Oh my gosh, hang on. There we go. But, before we use it on Dugong, we're going to Super Cheese. Now, let's see how much this attack does. Whoa, a bunch! Alright, we almost knocked that Dugong out. Awesome. Second one finishes it off. We put Cloyster to sleep and Skull Bash surprisingly does more than half, actually. Wow. Well, we'll just put everything to sleep, and Slowbro is also a 2-hit. Jinx comes next, and we almost knock her out, but not quite. Once we're through her, we reach Lapras. Lapras is going to take 3 hits by the look of it. Oh, no, 4. But we get through on what I'm going to consider to be our first try. Let's check on Bruno. Instead of Skull Bash, I'll be using Metronome on the Onyxes. And we get Screech and then Absorb. Nice. We then overkill it with the Metronome Ice Punch. Here against Hitmonchan, Bruno actually makes a decent play. After we hit it once, as we charge our attack, he uses an X Defend, making his Pokemon a 3-shot instead of a 2-shot. Ugh. That means that we use the last of our Skull Bash PP and still don't knock it out. We Metronome Seismic Toss and destroy it. Then Hitmonlee enters the scene and puts us out of our misery. Oof. We tried again with the same approach, but used up all of our Metronomes on the first Onyx and still didn't knock it out. Let's try again, but switch out Skull Bash. Instead, we're going to use Bubble Beam. Of course, this one-shots the Onyxes. It's going to be a 2-shot on the Hitmons and a 5-shot on the Machamp. Since we put all of the fighting types to sleep, though, we make it through no problem. It was here that I realized that I goofed. I never grabbed the TM for Psychic. So we tried Thunderbolt, but it just isn't strong enough against the Ghost's high special to get us through. But we do actually get kind of close. Still, I go back, grab the Psychic, and head back. This time, against Lorelei, I'm going to learn Thunderbolt instead of Skull Bash. I think this should be about as effective. We shock Dugong and deal less damage, seeming like it'll be a 3-shot. But it uses Growl, increasing our special, thanks to the Badge Boost glitch. And even after Dugong heals, it's now a 2-shot. Now that's a Darwin Award. We almost knock out Cloyster in one hit, but it takes 2. Slowbro 2, but Jinx takes us out. Eesh. Okay, jumping right back in. I use a rare candy with the intention of setting up and retaining the badge boosts longer before we level up, but I ended up not using it. Once we hit Jinx, we put it to sleep. We spend 5 Thunderbolts to bring it down. But then we get critically crushed by Lapras. Yeesh, so close. The next attempt goes just like the previous, basically. But this time, Lapras stays asleep longer, and we're able to win. With bloated confidence, we strut into Bruno's man cave, now brandishing Psychic and absolutely wreaking havoc, obliterating his team. We almost win without sustaining damage, but then Machamp nails us hard with a submission, dealing a crap ton of damage. But we hold on and knock it out. We get a critical hit with Psychic against Agatha's leading Gengar and then knock it out on the following turn. 1 shot on Golbat with another lucky critical hit. 2 on Haunter and a Metronome Comet Punch for Arbok. The final Gengar comes out and gives us a bit of trouble. We're toxicked. Intoxicated? Toxicked. Confused, nightshaded, and almost beaten. But our pudgy pink pugilist holds on and defeats the nefarious ghost. At last, it's time for Tri-Attack. Unfortunately, in this game, this is just a basic normal type attack with 70 base damage and no secondary effect. Those come in later generations. And Gyarados defeats us. Ooh, it came in aggressively. Okay, let's try again with a bit more cheese. In fact, this is the first time we've used our super cheese in the league. Since we started winning, that is. And we can see how much of a difference having those badge boosts makes. Oh, shoot. Then we use Haze. Does that actually reset our badge boosts and evasion? I actually don't know. Nonetheless, Dragonair is a 1-shot with Tri-Attack. We level up, and now we lose our badge boosts and deal way less damage. So, I guess that mist doesn't actually eliminate badge boosts. Alright. Oh, next is Aerodactyl. Oh, crap. I wasn't looking forward to this. And we have very few power points remaining. We put it to sleep, then Metronome for a Dig. Sharpen. Not bad. And a Dream Eater. That's fine. Now, just 2 Tri-Attacks will knock it out of the sky. Finally, Dragonite. Will 4 Tri-Attacks be enough? Looks like it. But then Dragonite uses Barrier. But then we get a lucky critical hit. We then knock it out with 1 Tri-Attack to spare. Alright. Now, we'll replace Try Attack with Skull Bash, and sorry for those of you who are hoping that I would use it until the very end, but we're getting rid of Metronome. Between Rhydon and the PP shrinkage, or shortage, and Metronome's unreliability, I think this is the right play. Say hello to the actual cheesiest combination in the game, the super duper cheese strat, minimize and toxic. Alright, let's not mess around. We'll put Pidgeot to sleep and set up. Luck stays on our side as Pidgeot stays asleep for a long time. We then get Alakazam and knock it out with 3 Skull Bashes. I'm actually surprised that 2 wasn't enough. And then we get the rock hard turd that is Rhydon. I originally like Rhydon, just not here, since it's the main reason that I dropped Metronome. Though I could have opted for Blizzard or Bubble Beam. I feel like Toxic just has more utility. Oops, misclick. Toxic lands and we'll just stall by wasting our minimize PP in order to save our Skull Bashes and Sings. And takes a little bit of time, but Rhydon does fall to the Toxic status. Arcanine is frail enough that we can knock it out with a few Skull Bashes. We'll finish it off with a Toxic to save a Skull Bash. And then Executor comes out. I think this thing is bulky enough to warrant a Toxic. Man, this strategy really is super cheap. But even still, we get put to sleep, and this coconut tree monster just starts nailing us, almost knocking us out. Fortunately, since this is Generation 1, Stomp does normal damage. Otherwise, it would deal double damage since we used Minimize. And while Executor falls due to bad poison, we are still asleep. Yikes. And then emerges the big kahuna. Starts throwing blizzards while we snooze, but I guess we're so small that the air doesn't connect with us. And then we put it to sleep and Skull Bash it until it faints. Not the most fascinating path to victory by any means, but we still got through. We have become the champion. Take that, dickwad rival. I'd like to thank my mom, and my Clefable, and Oak, and Geodude, and yeah, you get the idea. You know, our rival actually really wasn't that bad. Anyway, that's the end. I'm curious how we'd fare if we'd held on to Double Slap and just used all of our rare candies at the beginning. Maybe I'll look into that. For now, that's been my kooky Clefable run. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching and or listening. I had a ton of fun doing all this, though it was also a ton of work. Not only that, but I basically made this video twice. The first iteration was just way too long, although this one's also too long. The other one was even longer, and I felt like I could do better with the narration and some of the script and stuff, so oof, it's been an endeavor. And on top of that, working my job, taking care of my kid, doing other life duties. Whoo, it's been an undertaking. Also, going off script because I haven't done this part yet and totally forgot to do it. But now I'll hopefully be battling Mewtwo, so you guys can watch, see how this is going. But I didn't narrate it, so I don't know. Hopefully it's something interesting is happening. I don't even know if I'm at Mewtwo yet. I might be in the cave still. I mean, like on the way to Mewtwo. Anyway, hopefully something cool is going down. And with that, take care, everybody. Try to make the world a better place, please. Spread wealth and cheer and have fun. And check out my other stuff. Bye!